Hi everybody, my name's Joe K. It's Joe K Music and welcome to another day in the underground. Today we're going to be talking about the Instagram post from Dizzy Wright. It's causing quite the stir in the underground, and I think it's going to lead to some really good discussion about the music business in general, how deals are structured. I want to break down really what his complaint was. I want to talk about really the bigger picture here, and I want to try to look at things from both sides of the aisle, because you have the record label being Funk Volume, you have the artist being Dizzy Wright, and you have a pretty unique situation with the fact that Funk Volume was dismantled back in 2016, and it's really left some of this music to sit out in limbo for a while. For those of you that didn't get to catch the post, this is going to lead to some additional conversation. It already has by some other people that were involved in this situation, but let's go to the post here and see exactly what Dizzy Wright said. I finally own all my Funk Volume masters 100%, and I'm so thankful. I signed with FV in 2011 and believed in the vision that we would be around for a long time, so I split my masters 50-50 with the label. Even though I wrote all these lyrics and came up with all these ideas, I was a part of something bigger than me, so 50% went back into the label to help it grow. When the label dismantled in 2015, it had nothing to do with me, but unfortunately moving forward, I never got that 50% back that was supposed to help the label grow. When we parted ways, I felt like all the masters to my music should have come to me because there was no label anymore. So I should be able to invest that back into my career, which is what FV would have been doing. On top of that, I would have never gave up that 50% if I knew the label would completely go away one day. So where's the money going to even go if it's not being invested to me? Anyways, I had to learn the hard way that business is business, and the homie-ish can go right out the door, and even though I thought it was effed up, I still ended up having to buy my masters back. Took me 5 years to get it done because the first 2 years I wasn't even understanding how they could do me like that after all the work I put in to help the label grow. This ish gets crazy, but it's 2021 now, and I'm still standing tall. I want to encourage independent artists out there to be careful who you trust, and remember that the business side is just as important as the art. With that being said, go stream and download all my music from the Funk Volume era. To all my real fans, thank you for holding me down all these years. I feel like we deserve this. Hashtag still moving. When he signed to Funk Volume initially, he had a little bit of buzz going. He had a pretty unique style compared to a lot of the other artists that were on Funk Volume. He didn't really fit the mold for the other artists that were on Funk Volume, which I think does come into play here, because he did really have to not only pull from the existing Funk Volume fan base, but he also had to help cultivate his own, because a lot of the people at the time, I remember Dizzy got a lot of flack from the fans of Funk Volume at the time. He had to really grow that base and try to pull as many of those fans as he could to get things rolling. But then he really took off with his own sound, his own style, and he really brought that new flavor into the mix. I think he did exactly what Dame thought he was going to do for the label and for the label's fan base in general. Some of the things that were shared about the deal that he signed were pretty interesting. Dizzy Wright supposedly signed a deal with Funk Volume for about 5 albums. It was a 360 deal. Now, to a lot of people, a 360 deal has a bad rap, but that is what a lot of labels are doing, whether they're major labels, independent labels, etc. It's a way for them to, really find a way to monetize and get their money back in every single aspect of the music business. So not only are they getting their money back and making money off you from the music itself, they're getting money typically from merchandise and tours and every aspect that you can possibly make money while you're on the label. They're going to be trying to get their cut. This 360 deal was made up of something called profit sharing. So the profit sharing was split up 70-30 initially. 70% to the label, 30% to Dizzy Wright. Now, the recouping of the initial investment was also very interesting. And the way that it was recouped, I feel, was very fair. Let's give an example. So an artist goes out, let's just say they get an advance of $1 million. The label gives them that money. It's an advance. They have to pay it back. And they repay that back through something called recouping, right? They're recouping the investment that they gave the artist originally. Now, the recoupment can happen in two different ways, and that's where this gets interesting for how it was set up with Dizzy. A lot of major labels are going to make you recoup based off of the percentage that you're receiving. For example, artist goes out, they get $1 million, they get that advance up front, they got to go work over the next year to try to make that million back. Let's say in 1 year, this artist skyrockets, they make a crap ton of money, and they totally kill it. They make $1 million that year total, right? Everything, merchandise, music, everything, total $1 million. Now, in a normal major label setup, typically how that's going to look, if it's split 70-30, is that the label's going to take their $700,000 out of that million, and the artist is going to get their $300,000. But remember, they got $1 million advance. So now the artist is going to take their $300,000 and they're going to have to put it towards that million. It's not all encompassing where that $1 million they made is $1 million towards the recoupment. How it worked for Dizzy was in his favor, meaning that if he got, let's say, $1 million advance and he made $1 million back, he would be recouped. That's about as fair it can get when it comes to record label deals. So one of the interesting things about this deal is that he also got to increase his percentage of profit sharing as he was putting out more albums. This is key. Remember this point throughout this video. As he put out albums, his percentage of his profits would increase. He put out a total of 2 albums before the label was dismantled. When he put out his first album, that split went from a 70-30 to a 60-40. When he puts out the second album, now we're looking at a 50-50. And as he were to put out more albums, had the label been around, those percentages would have increased over time incrementally. That was all structured within this deal. Again, in my opinion, a very fair setup. Something that is almost unheard of with the majority of label deals that are happening these days, especially. There were also some other things that were happening there behind the scenes, and I don't know if there's evidence of this, and I don't know, what Dizzy Wright's thoughts would be about this whole situation, but Dame did mention that there were times where they gave him a higher percentage and paid him more than they should have at the time, just so that he could, support his family and things like that while they were touring and really going above and beyond to try to help him out in any way humanly possible, which again, something that a normal major record label probably wouldn't do. I read you the Instagram post, and the big key here is about the masters. Dizzy Wright is extremely upset, at least it seems that way, or he wouldn't have went to social media to post this crap, but it seems like he's pretty upset about the fact that he had to not only give up 50% of his masters, but then he had to go and buy that back. And Dame was asked if hey, did he have to buy that back? And that's where the dancing started. That's where Dame started to kind of backpedal a little bit and started like, no, but yeah, I mean, he kind of did because I made him pay it back through what he was earning from his profit sharing. That's interesting to me because, sometimes masters are never given back. A lot of times they're never given back. The label owns that crap forever, and that's just the way the deal's structured. Sometimes they do have a buyout option. And sometimes they do have more of a length of time. After so many years, we're going to give you X amount of percentage back, or we're going to give you, if you're super lucky, maybe you're going to get your whole masters back after a certain period of time when that contract is no longer in existence. But the fact that he made him buy back his masters in this roundabout way of basically taking whatever he would have paid Dizzy Wright and paid himself with that to allow him to, over a period of time and a series of payments, earn his masters back, that's really interesting to me because you got to remember the label didn't really hold up their end of the deal in this case. And I would hope, to be fair, somebody from Dizzy's camp is looking at that contract and looking at it and going, were they within their right to make me buy back my masters at a rate that I should have been earning a higher percentage on over time, because I would have put out more albums, the label would have been pushing me more, and Dizzy is right. Although I don't think 50% should have been going straight to Dizzy, I think a percentage should have been going to Dame and Hobson and the owners. You know, they're the owners of the label that was dismantled. I think they should have gotten their cut too, because they took a huge investment out on Dizzy Wright. But at the same time, I don't think that percentage should have been the full 50% that was remaining. That is craziness to me for a label that wasn't even in existence anymore. And I understand that the opinion here is that, well, they took the initial investment. Yeah, they did. And that artist signed that initial contract and they took the risk, and you failed to execute on your end of the deal once you decided to close those doors. That's just my opinion. So I get his frustration. I don't know why he went to social media with this, but when you post something like this, you're starting that bridge on fire, and there's no amount of water that you're going to pour onto the inferno to put that thing out at a certain point. The damage has already been done. There are podcasts that are happening talking about this situation, and it's bringing up more of the same type of drama that was going on back in 2015, 2016, and all those years of Funk Volume. It's a bad look for Dizzy. It's a bad look for Dame. I find it interesting the way that Dame tried to play it off too, because look, although he's right in a lot of these situations and he's probably contractually correct in how these deals were structured, doing all kinds of crazy crap, like getting the publishing from Dizzy too, because he was managing Dizzy, which is a whole nother story. I wonder if Dame had all the publishing for all the artists since he was their manager, and Funk Volume didn't get a piece of any of that too, so Dame was kind of double dipping in there. I know that's been talked about in the past as well, but DJ Payne 1, he was pretty surprised when he heard that Dame had a portion of the publishing. There were a couple times throughout the interview where you can see he's asking questions that are supposed to be softballs, and Dame's supposed to hit him out of the park, and he has to kind of backpedal a little bit and explain, you know, what exactly was happening there. So I think it kind of threw him off a little bit at some points. Again, do I think this deal was fair? It probably was pretty dang fair overall. I'm going to be honest. People are probably going to crucify me for saying that, but I think the deal overall was pretty fair. Now, do I think that this was executed 100% the way that it should have been? No, because I think this is a pretty unique situation. So one key takeaway from all of this, I think that artists should be paying attention to when they sign to an independent label, is what happens when this label doesn't exist anymore. What are my options to buy out my masters, to get my masters back? What's on the table here that I can do to protect myself? You should be thinking about that stuff when you're signing a deal like this, especially for something that's over several years' time. It's on a newer label. Those are critical key elements that you should be putting into focus when you're constructing a contract like this. And just to touch on something that I was talking about before, and I was kind of starting to get into it, I do find it pretty interesting that Dame gets onto a podcast and it was very passive aggressively kind of going at Dizzy Wright. The people that were on the podcast were kind of laughing at Dizzy, like basically calling him an idiot, saying he's a stupid artist, basically. I'm paraphrasing. When I listened to the podcast and I heard that, it really kind of perked up my ears a bit, and it got me thinking, if you're so upset about an artist posting this on Instagram, why are you pouring more gasoline onto that bridge I was talking about and causing it to raise awareness to the fire in the first place? Because yes, a lot of people saw this post, a lot of fans saw this post. I think it was probably out of frustration from Dame, to be quite honest, because over the years he has been vilified by all the Funk Volume fans. Every time there was something that happened at Funk Volume, it was always Dame's fault. Nobody cared about the evidence that was laid out in front of them. And I think what we can learn from the conversation that he had with Hobson is that a lot of the times it was just due to the artist not really fully understanding what was in their contracts and their agreements when they signed up for things. And I think that this is probably another one of those situations where Dizzy was frustrated. He just got done getting through this grueling pain of getting his masters back. He went to social media to post about it, and I don't think he necessarily thought about the repercussions of how this was going to look for him. And I also don't feel like Dame was really thinking about the long-term effects of this. I think he was looking at the short-term, like, here we go again. The fans are going to come at me, and I need to defend myself, because that's always in the back of his mind. I think sometimes you just got to let this crap go, and you got to move on. This is old news. This is old news. I shouldn't even be covering this. It's so freaking old. But, you know, it is what it is. So, very, very interesting. What do you guys think about this, though? I'm very curious to know who you think may be in the right or the wrong here. Drop a comment below. Let me know. Do you think that this was right of Dizzy to post? Do you think that Dizzy shouldn't have posted? How do you feel about the Masters and the ownership of the Masters with the label disbanding? I want to know all of your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you guys are here right now and you're paying attention to this crap, just know that I got a slew of other underground hip-hop related content on the channel. So you need to go check that crap out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, share this video with your friends, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, your mom. I don't care. Share this crap. We got to get more underground hip-hop content out there for the people. This is a great place to do that. I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Joe K. It's just another day in the underground.